Well, we're here back at Greenway Cycles to have a look at some more of his bikes. We've only just scratched the surface. Hi Graham, you okay?
Hi Andy. Yeah,
yes.
Good to see you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, we're interested. We want to see some more of your bikes and to talk some more cycling with you. So yeah, can you tell us what you've been up to?
Well, yeah. I've never stopped collecting, of course, and maybe even the last time we were talking, some of these frames, bikes were already here, but they weren't ready to go onto display and they aren't to be seen. And well, like you say, you only scratched the surface. There are still lots of different directions we could go discussing all the different types of alloy frames that there are, and the different manufacturers and the different countries, and different carbon bikes, composite bikes, Italian brands which we've never discussed, but I've got here. Yeah, lots of things. One thing I am aware of is last time or the time before I talked a lot and we didn't do many bikes.
Right.
So I was thinking, let's talk a bit less and do a few more bikes. You know,
Fantastic.
that's what people want to see. People want to see the bikes. They don't want to hear me talking. They want to see this bike, that bike, this equipment that's 30, 40, 50 years old. And I'll tell you the significance of it and what they did what they meant in the progression of towards today, where bikes are incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, we can start anywhere you like.
Right. Okay. Well, I did notice a couple of rallies, but we will save them till last, I think.
Okay.
Okay. What bikes have you been building up then?
Well, I did say about different alloy frames, and I was able to get a Kettler, which is a big German manufacturer, and they did their version of the alloy road frame. It's not super light, but nonetheless it was very aero, and never really came to this country. The German market is a massive market, and they probably weren't interested in what they would have to do to sell the bikes in this country. Okay. Anyway, I found one of those, and I built that up with a contemporary Groupset.
Okay, so what Groupset?
So the Groupset's Shimano 600 AX.
Right. Okay.
Which is the aero group. The bike had to be built in a particular way, and when that group was released, pretty much every manufacturer made an aero bike for that Groupset to fit on. Right.
Yeah, and the frame's really unusual on that bike as well, isn't
it? It is unusual. It's got centrally mounted gear levers. Right. It's got special guides because the cable pulls on the front mech was in a completely different position. So none of the existing bikes or existing cable guides would work.
So was this bike completely made up when you got it?
No, it was just a frame with the gear levers fitted, because the gear levers are very specifically centrally mounted.
Yes.
And that was it. It was just literally a frame and forks, no headset, no nothing. The seat pin was a very strange size, and 25.4, which is 1 inch, and a very odd size. There are plenty of very old straight seat pins which used to be fitted to all the basic rallies, which were 1 inch, but very few with a cradle on, but we found one. And actually, when you look at the way the seat clamp arrangement is, it's very reminiscent of the Sakai Littage frame. Same kind, very, very similar. And the Sakai Littage frame, again, we touched on this when we were discussing alloy frames, Vitas frames, but the Sakai Littage, in my view, is probably the best alloy frame. And I can remember when going to a show and seeing this frame presented. I think could have been in Taiwan, it could have been in Milan, I can't remember. And talking to the people and saying, look, I'd love to have this frame in the UK. I could sell a lot of these frames. And they said, oh, well, we have a distributor in the UK. Their name is Chambers Churchill, they were called. Okay. They were in the Midlands somewhere. And you need to contact them. So I contacted them, and they weren't interested. They said, we don't want to import it. Our business is all about supplying 50,000 cheap rear mechs, cheap chain sets to Raleigh and Falcon and Coventry Eagle and all the other manufacturers. This was early 80s. Yeah. And we're not really, it's such a small market, it's not worth us bothering. And at the time, SR used to make a chain set which was as good as a Campac one.
Right.
It was called SR Royal. And the track chain sets were just like, oh, fantastic, let's try and get, you couldn't get they just weren't interested in importing them, and you know, and consequently they never became a big sale. There never was a sale of that product in the UK. The one I've got I bought from Spain, and it's got Pinarello stickers on it, which are obviously from Italy, but there you go.
Yeah, it's a really interesting bike that. So what's the next bike?
Well, I've also got a nice TVT curved top tube low pro frame.
Wow, okay.
Very unusual. I don't think they ever really came on the market.
Okay.
When I bought the frame, it didn't have any forks.
Right.
And it happened that I'd seen on a website somewhere, or in eBay or whatever, a pair of 26-inch TVT carbon forks, and I thought, hang on a minute, there's the frame, there's the forks. I bought the two, put them together, and I've never seen one advertised anywhere. Never, you know, it's painted up, ready to be used by the Z team that Greg LeMond was riding for, and there it's just hanging on the wall.
Interesting. It'd be a very nice bike to see built up, that one.
Yes, yeah, you're right, and it could be built up with Mavic equipment, which is what they used at the time, I think, or maybe Campag, but that's just another project for the future.
Another reason to revisit. Definitely. So,
and another 10 bikes we could look at.
Well, another bike. So,
Well, I may have discussed what I consider to be one of my favourite brands, which is Contini.
Okay.
Contini is a Spanish brand, although it sounds Italian, and obviously there was a professional called Contini, but he was Italian. But there was a small bike shop or a small manufacturer in Navarra, in Spain, and what was unusual was the fact that they had cast lugs. I mean, probably done by the lost wax process, same as Geos. But for a very small manufacturer to have these incredible quality lugs just didn't seem in keeping with the kind of business that it was. And the other thing which was very misleading at the time is his logo was an exact copy. I mean, not even a sort of like a copy, an exact copy of the Sinelli logo.
Yes, it is very misleading, because I remember when I very first seen one, that's exactly what I thought it was. Yeah, it wasn't until you educated me on that.
Me too as well. When I first saw that, bought the first bike, and I think it was just a frame, the yellow one. I thought it was Sinelli.
Yeah.
And it was only when I got it and I started doing some research and finding out about it, and then fortunately I have a friend in Spain who sort of looks around the Spanish websites and the Spanish forums and finds these, and so I've actually got two more now. So I've got a new Contini.
Right. A new one. Okay. So the group set on this one is
on the Contini is what would be contemporary to that frame. So it's Campag Athena.
Right. Okay.
Nice. It's a beautiful frame. The curved seat stays and chain stays and seat tube are very unusual. Not unique by any means. There were curved tubes. There is nothing new in cycling.
No.
There were curved tubes in the 20s and 30s. Yeah. In the same way that when Shimano brought out the Bioplace chainring, people said, "Oh, this is a fantastic idea," and then Absolute Black started doing them, and Chris Froome was riding on them, and everyone's going, "Oh, how innovative!" Well, actually,
full circle,
if you go back to the 20s, they had them then. Yeah. Someone had already thought of it. I mean, there are only so many things under the sun.
Yes.
And an engineer is an engineer, and he looks at it and he thinks, actually, could it work better if I ovalized the chip? And they did that in the 20s or 30s. You know, it's all. And you know what? I saw something recently where someone is starting to use inch pitch chains on bikes.
Right. Okay.
Because they're saying it's more efficient. Now, the inch pitch chain was something that was used on track bikes up to, say, Reg Harris's time.
All right.
And then faded out of use.
Really,
disappeared, But
it's been re-looked at.
It's been, they're looking at it again and saying, do you know what, that actually could be more efficient.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean, it's nice the fact that they are revisiting these ideas, though, and the fact that now we've maybe come on and can engineer it a bit better, and, you know.
Yeah, well, who'd have thought? I mean, if 30 years ago we'd been talking about bikes and saying, well, here's a new bike, there are no cables, they're all hidden, you literally can't see the cables. The brakes are hydraulic disc brakes. What? Disc brakes on a bike?
Yeah.
You know, they were only sort of appeared on motorbikes.
Yeah.
whenever that was, in the 60s or 70s, and
you've got a new bike, haven't you?
I've got a new bike.
Yes. You've got a new bike.
Yeah.
Well, we talk, have you been out on it recently? And
no, it was ready to use last weekend, but it was too wet.
Okay. It's absolutely
and I'm
stunning.
I'm a good weather cyclist these days.
Right.
And you know, let's court a bit of controversy, and I'm sure there'll be comments. And what do you do? It's sacrilege. You've got all these beautiful bikes. Why are you riding on? Well, the fact is, I don't drive a manual car, which has wind-up windows and no synchromesh in the gearbox. You know.
No. Well, I'm exactly the same. I ride a carbon bike for me day to day, and I do ride the vintage bikes as well, just to enjoy. And I say they're more like artwork these days. I mean, some of it would be more sacrilege to actually destroy some of Deltas and everything else. Really, that's the way I kind of look at it. It's like a sunny day ride, really.
Yeah.
Some of these bikes.
Well, I mean, Delta brakes. There's a great story. I mean, the fact is, they look fabulous. They're terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just impossible to. They're not impossible, but almost impossible to adjust. And I can tell you from experience that they need to be done properly. Because I had them on a bike, went out for a ride, was going down a steep hill, pulled the front brake up, the cable pulled through, and I ended up going between a wagon coming the other way on the curb, hopping up the curb and throwing myself onto the grass.
Right.
To stay alive. Because Delta brakes, I mean, they came off the bike pretty quickly, let me tell you.
Yeah, your confidence completely.
I mean, just very hard to adjust to get them correct. And then they changed from 4 pivot to 5 pivot.
Right.
And they altered the cable guide from a screw in to a push in to make it easier to adjust.
Yeah.
But by then, I think people's confidence had gone. A bit like they lost confidence in titanium after Laurent Fignon snapped an axle in a race, and in the full glare of live TV.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like out the saddle or anything. He was just riding along, and Bing next to him was on the floor, and he's got a left-hand crank on his foot, not attached to the bike. Titanium. Oh, that's it. People were the public were frightened off.
Yeah.
And that was it. So that was that was something that occurred.
Do you know what? We've got a whole other conversation there with axles and deltas. Can we have another bike?
Yeah. Another bike. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, fortunately, that I have close connection with Raleigh, and I have a nice collection of Raleigh bikes. I came across a Dyna-Tech bike.
Yes, I had noticed this one as well as we came in.
Well, the Dyna-Tech frame, and whilst we'd already done a Laurent Fignon bike, a System U bike, which was in 753.
753, yeah. So we'll just have a look at the 753 one. 753 is a standard, very nice 753 Raleigh frame with full Campag C record with the Delta calipers. Very nice indeed. But to accompany that one, then you've come across this Dyna-Tech frame and had this just recently built up.
That was the step up in technology, was up to the Dyna-Tech. So I got hold of this one, and we thought we'd have the Fignon bike with the on Dyna-Tech as well as 753, because we can sit side by side. So that's ready. That's ready for you to see.
No, I mean that one as well. That's also got the C record on again. So we've got a Campag C record throughout.
Yeah.
But what was really unusual and what I picked up on was it's white. It's all the System U colours, but there's a very slight fade of the Dyna-Tech design colour scheme on there.
Yeah.
It's absolutely stunning, and I just hope that the cameras bring it out for you to actually see, because it's a bike that you sort of, the closer you get, you're more intrigued to look at it because of the paintwork that's on it.
I think what it was, that the tubes were finished like that, and then they decided that you couldn't really tell what the frames were.
Right.
It's a bit like today, you see these black bikes with black decals. Well, you don't see the pros riding on those, because why would, Lapierre, we know Lapierre, why would Lapierre have a team bike and you can't read the name?
Yes.
And I think that was probably, they thought, well, we won't just have white lobes, we'll paint the tubes white. And the hint of what was underneath. I've seen a couple like this, so whether it's I don't know why, but I've seen a couple.
Maybe someone does. Out there, leave a comment below.
I mean, and maybe if with a different kind of paint, it looks plain white.
Yeah.
But this was how this came to us, and I'd seen them before, so I just thought, I'm not changing this, I'll leave it as it is.
Yeah.
Whether it's what, because you certainly couldn't tell. If you see a picture of Fignon in a race, even a picture where it's just him on his own, you wouldn't see the subtleness of this pattern underneath.
Have we got another bike? What other bike have we got?
Well, I think the only other one, there are two others which are relatively new. One isn't that old, but it's a hybrid alloy and carbon Gianni Motta. Very unusual, and it's easier to look at the pictures really. But the seat cluster bottom bracket seat tube is one piece of alloy, and all of the other tubes are carbon. It's a very unusual thing. I came across it. I'd never seen one. Came across it simply because it just seemed such an odd combination, and I clearly wasn't popular because you'd have seen hundreds of them, and whether it worked or not, who knows. I mean, Gianni Motta was just a very he was a top professional. He gave his name to a brand, and it had a certain amount of sales, I guess, but it's not around anymore.
Right.
As is the case with many of the pros from years ago who had their own brands like Francesco Moser, Fondriest, and so I mean maybe they're still going, but I haven't seen a modern one.
Right.
But they were top riders in their day, and I'm sure that there were bikes with Bernardino on as well, and they were trying to think of some others. Jacques Anquetil's name, going back many years, was on frames that Ron Kitchen used to import. So they've always been around. Bike. I mean, it's usually a small manufacturer who allies themselves with this name because the name has more cachet than their own name.
Yeah.
So is the Gianni Motta. Yes, that's a nice bike. I've also got it's a few actually. I've got what was an Onse team frame, the Giant, which is absolutely like new with a lovely Campag Groupset on. A few TVTs which we've never seen, but they're not new. But the TVT, you've never featured them. There's 3 TVT bikes.
Do you know one bike that we haven't featured, and that's probably been in most of the videos, is this one here.
I mean, Chesini is a small builder in Italy, and what's nice about the frames are the head tube is engraved with his badge, and there are a couple of Panto lugs and so on. But he had very innovative designs, and this was a sort of mix between a low pro and a road frame with this step down tube. It was one that was we renovated, and we fitted a Dyna-Tech AX Groupset, which was absolutely brand new.
Yes.
I bought the Groupset in boxes, and it's got everything. The wheel, the hubs,
absolutely
everything.
Stunning. It's beautiful, and
it's completely
the Groupset look. I was just about to say the Groupset looks absolutely brand new.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is absolutely stunning. You do actually have another bicycle with the AX Groupset on. Which is that?
That's the Motobecane Profil. As I said, every manufacturer that was buying from Shimano would have been given a heads up, maybe even a year before it was launched. This is a new group. This is going to take the world by storm. You need to have a bike, and the idea of aerodynamics was becoming more and more popular. So these low profile, and by that I don't mean the dipped at the front. I mean low profile aerodynamically.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
So these aerodynamically low profile bikes were made by pretty much every manufacturer. Motobecane, Peugeot, a lot of Italian bikes, bike manufacturers.
Yeah, so it's like the whole cycling industry was switching on to this, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, by now, this would be 1981. By now, Shimano had become established as a real competitor to Campag. The 7400 Dyna-Tech with click change 7 speed with the cassette hubs, so the indexing worked.
Right.
All of that was just appearing, and in fact, the Grahamway, the Deeside Cycles racing team for 1981, I equipped their bikes with Dyna-Tech AX, frames specially made with the Dyna-Tech. So this is the more popular or less expensive bike that every manufacturer did. So I wanted one for the collection. The Motobecane one became available, and so that's there. But
I also noticed as well with the seat look on that one, once it was the Motobecane.
Yeah, unusual. Yes, there's a very unusual seat clamp on that, which is on the inside of the seat tube. Yeah, that's unusual. But then, if people will have seen on the forums or in Facebook that the Shimano poster of the rider in a one-piece suit, literally head to toe, and an aero helmet on this silver bike, and that was the launch for AX, the AX concept, the aerodynamic concept.
Brilliant.
And I think that generated quite a lot of interest, and of course every manufacturer had them. So the show the bike show in 1981 was nothing but this. But strangely enough, it didn't catch on.
No.
You know, it just didn't catch on as a group, and as a consequence, there's plenty of the bikes out there. But
well, I mean, the thing is, what I've noticed with the Groupset itself, you can't mix and match. That Groupset is, I mean, the pedal arms and the pedals and everything. It's all exactly. It's got to be that Groupset.
Absolutely. So, although there were adapters made to fit into the crank arms, so you could put normal pedals in.
Okay.
But the big problem was the rear mech and front mech needed very specific cable travel.
Right.
And of course the brakes were this unusual sort of precursor to Delta brakes with this, I mean, I can't remember the name now, but there was a name for the pull-up thing, triangular shaped pull-up thing, which made them work. But actually the brakes didn't work, and we used them on our team bikes for 2 or 3 races. I think by the time we got to the end of April, we were back onto the old-fashioned rim brake calipers, and then within a couple of months we were back on Dura-Race 7400 because it just didn't work in a race environment how you wanted it worked. It just wasn't reliable. The gear levers were great shape, nice idea aerodynamically, but when it's pouring with rain and you just want to slip down and change gear, it didn't work because it was slippy and they
so it looked fantastic, but it wasn't practical.
It looked fantastic. No. And the aero levers, they were great with the right calipers because of the way they pivoted. But when you changed them to the normal road brake calipers, it didn't work.
Right.
So we started using Suntour levers actually.
Yes.
And I mean, if you're collecting Campag and you want Super Rekord levers, normal cable out the top Super Rekord levers, they're inordinately expensive.
Right.
Here's the reason. 1979, 80, 81, 82, when the aero cables hidden started, there were no Campag levers.
Right.
So people took off the Super Rekord ones and bought Suntour or Suntour ones were the main ones, and they threw the Campag ones in the shed and left them there, or thought, I'm never going to use them again, and threw them away because nobody wanted them.
Right.
So the old Super Rekord levers as such now are quite rare.
Right.
And ones in really nice condition seem to be, I think, unbelievably expensive. Right?
Well, we've done quite a few bikes there. Thanks very much, Graham. We have still got so many more bikes to get through, and even we've got some mountain bikes.
Some mountain bikes, yeah. Well, if anyone who saw the Vitus video will realise that I completely omitted the Vitus alloy mountain bike,
Right.
And may well wonder why, when we did the Colnago video, I didn't mention my Colnago mountain bike, which is sitting there.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware in regards to that. So.
Yeah, well, there's just, the thing is, there's not this. I've got so many bikes now. I'm running out of space, and I'm going to be 75 next year, and at some point in time, I've got to think about letting some of these bikes go.
Yeah. And letting someone else look after them.
Well, yes. I mean, some of them they can clearly, most of them can be ridden.
Yeah.
And people want to ride them, fine. But I mean, I will listen to offers, if you like, if people want to buy them.
I think we are sort of gearing up towards that way, and I'm sure we will be covering that regards to actually putting these bikes up for sale, some of the bikes.
Yeah.
So watch this space, because as I say, you've mentioned about the fact that you are wanting to actually make some space and allow some of these bikes to go. With that said, there must be or a few bikes that you would never let go. Which just off the top of your head, what would they be?
Well, one of my favourite bikes is the Colnago with the Suntour Superb Pro group set on.
Right.
I have a soft spot for that. It was beautiful equipment, so innovative, and that's the if I was going to choose a bike to ride, that would be it. Although I equally would like to ride on my look bike with Mectronic.
Right.
You know, I'd probably quite like to ride on that. And I'd have to keep a Vitus of some kind, because Vitus, I have a very strong connection with Vitus, and as some of the people watching the video will know, that I'm an administrator of the Vintage Vitus group on Facebook, and I answer questions all the time on that group, and it's a worldwide group with 10 towards 2,000 members now.
Well, maybe that could be a video for the future where you have a last ride of some of these bikes, and maybe we'll get a nice sunny day for that.
No, I don't like the idea of a last ride.
Oh right, okay. Well, maybe a ride then, but you never know. We never know when that last time will be, do we? So
well, hopefully it's when I'm about 95.
Yes, definitely so. Yeah. Keep the positivity. Well, thank you so much, Graham, for your time. Yet again, I'm sure we're going to be definitely visiting again. We've got these mountain bikes to look at, and also, as I say, we will be covering more bikes regards to putting them on sale. We've got so many to go at. It's unbelievable here. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and bye for now.